Hello friends and welcome back to my second match in the DreamHack Master StarCraft 2 Winter. This time I'm playing against my teammate Lambo, also playing for the Shopify Rebellion of course, and the first map here is going to be Alcyone. Now, in the past, Lambo has beaten me many times. I think out of the past 20 series that we've played, I won 3 of them. However, out of the past 10 series we've played, I also won 3. So I've been performing a little bit better, and one of the reasons is because I think I used to be a very kind of one-dimensional player, and in the past year or so I've been trying to switch that up a bit more, throwing in some different strategies, and even if they're macro-oriented strategies, at least don't play the same one build again and again and again. Because if someone is better in macro than you and you're just playing that same build, it's difficult to surprise your opponent. So with that all in mind, let's get into the series. As my first map here, I'm going to be spawning in the bottom left, my opponent in the top right. I'm just opening up with the most standard opener, a 1-gate expand, but then things are gonna go down. So a little bit of a backstory here is there is a Swedish player called Fighting Frog, and he's about 5'7", 5'8" MMR, so it's pretty decent MMR, and he is someone that is very innovative. He's creative, he thinks outside of the box, and he's a mathematically sound player. And what I mean with that is that he really thinks about efficient build order usage, which is one of the most important things is when you're creating build orders, is not just that you have a cool idea, but that you're capable of executing it at a high level and also in an efficient manner. And he sent me this build order. He was like, hey, Kevin, look at this. This is a Tempest Rush with a Mothership included, and it hits like a freaking truck. And I opened the replay and I was like, all right, this looks kind of ridiculous. There's absolutely no way in hell that this can ever work. Like, this looks stupid. And literally the first real unit you build is a Mothership. You fly it across the map and you recall a bunch of Tempest. How in the world is this ever supposed to work? But I gave it a shot anyway. I played some games against the AI. I switched some things around to make it a little bit more, to have it just be a bit more disguised in general. And then I started playing it in custom games as well. Now, note that all of this happened the day before I played my match versus Lambo. So there's very short timing for me to really figure out how to play this build perfectly or what the correct follow-ups are. I played a couple of games in customs, and I think 5 or so, and I won every single game with them against pretty high-level Zergs as well. So I was very happy with the build's performance, but I still felt very unsure about some of the follow-ups out of it. Usually the way that you have to think about build orders is that the build order is the first part, and most of the time you create either a lead or a small disadvantage for yourself. Sometimes you even manage to win with just a straight up build order or get in such a good spot that the game is unlosable. But most of the time what happens is you get an advantage, and from there on out you need to kind of leverage that advantage into something else. And although I felt very comfortable with the first 7 minutes or so, I felt a little bit less comfortable with minutes 7 till 12, the moment where you're really transitioning into something else. And I hadn't completely mapped all of that out versus every single composition. I felt okay against the range composition, but I'm not entirely sure still right now what exactly to do against some of those ground compositions, those melee compositions with Banelings. I think I have some thoughts, but it's hard. So let's focus on the build here as I throw down a very fast fleet beacon right away after my first Oracle. Now, Lambo went for a Nexus cancel here, which is actually very unfortunate for me. Usually it's not that big of a deal because I have a second Oracle, but because I only have a single Oracle, it's extremely difficult for me to move across the map with this Oracle. So I'm getting legitimately 0 scouting information. There's just no way for me to do anything whatsoever right now, and that is extremely frustrating. I do have the double Stargates going up, and my Nexus is going up as well. So macro-wise, this is all looking fine. And the moment my fleet beacon finishes up, I'm just going to start my Mothership. And the timing for that Mothership should be around 4 minutes and 52 seconds is, I think, how I did it against the AI. That's what I had written down. This is another thing, is that whenever I play new build orders and you haven't played them that many times, it can happen that you kind of forget exactly what the correct order of things is. And that is, of course, very unfortunate when that happens. But I felt comfortable enough with the build that I still wanted to play it. You know, there's some things that I didn't have mapped out completely, and I wasn't entirely comfortable with the build, but I felt comfortable enough. I was like, okay, I wanna actually try this. So he's trying to deal some damage here. as I'm sending out these Tempests. Now, here's where I make my first mistake. After my first Tempest, I'm supposed to start my Tectonic Destabilizers upgrade, which I end up never getting in this game. This is actually a very vital part of the build as well, by the way. The Tectonic Destabilizer is the upgrade you get on the Fleet Beacon for Tempest, and it allows you that when you have 5 Tempest to one-shot a Spore, so that Spores aren't that big of an issue. And it also allows you to right-click hatcheries and kill them, I think within like 4 shots or so, if no transfuses are used. So that upgrade is, well, it's kind of vital to the entire plan, honestly. Because the plan is simple. I fly with my Mothership across the map, I chrono out 5 Tempest, and then I recall my 5 Tempest to the other side of the map, and then I pray to the Lord that he didn't open up with Corruptors. Or with like a very fast Spire. So this is extremely good against people that open up with fast +1 melee, in which they delay their lair. It's also good against people that maybe blindly go into Hydras, because Hydras don't actually fight so well against Tempest, especially when the Tempest are... There's 5 of them, and there's like maybe about 8, 9 Hydras. You can get pretty okay trades for longer periods of time with the new speed of the Tempest. So my Mothership flying across the map, I think I might have messed up 1 chrono here as well. Just forgot the order of where the chronos had to go. And my plan is to go into Blink Stalkers and Templar archives behind this. And the reason for that is very simple. I want to get Blink Stalker and Templar with this, because Blink Stalkers are really good against Roaches, for example, and they're just a good unit for safety. And then the Templar archives, it's great against high link counts, and it's also useful against Baneling. So you can, it's really kind of a catch-all response. So here, if I had Tectonic Destabilizers, these Spores would have been no issue whatsoever. Like I would have killed 1 already, and then I could have started focusing on the Queen. 5 Tempests, by the way, also one-shot Queen. So that's why this is such an absolute key number here. I'm using my invisibility on the Mothership as I start taking my fort base. About to lose 1 Tempest here if I ain't careful, but I'm clearing a lot of freaking Queens over here. And I'm also starting to fight a couple of these Overlords right now, flying towards the main base. The funny thing with this army is that it's really difficult to properly harass drones, because you need to use every single Tempest individually if you want to harass drones. So here, if I had Tectonic Destabilizers, I could have just right-clicked that Spire real quick. Like, yeah, that could have gone down real freaking fast. And instead of just focusing on these Queens, I could have also probably taken out the lair or so. So there's actually a pretty significant error here out of me, which I obviously do regret quite a bit. I feel stupid. The Corruptors now come out. I probably should have used invisibility on my Mothership before recalling, because as a result now I lose 2 Tempests, which is kind of sloppy. I rather would have had these Tempests alive, but I feel kind of okay. I dealt a bunch of damage. I killed like 10, 12, 13 Queens. No, I think it's like 10, 11 Queens or so. Something like this. I'm starting to build Stasis Wards. I have a fort base on the way. I have a bunch of Stalkers, so it's not like he can move across the map with a Roach Corruptor army and straight up kill me. And this is kind of what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting, like, in most of my practice, I've been playing against people going into range from this. Not so much into something different. But here I see, and I scouted that he had the +1 upgrade on his Ling. So I'm like, hey, that's interesting. And as a result, I probably should have instantly started Storm, but I don't quite do that. I'm not entirely sure why I don't quite do that, because I scouted twice. It's almost as if I didn't entirely see it. I'm just adding more and more Stalkers. Now he's moving out, and he's gonna probably here catch my Nexus, but I go with a cheeky little recall on my Mothership. God, I love this unit so much, man. The Mothership is such a fun unit. Such a fun unit. And now I start Storm, but this is fairly late. I also have already built a bunch of Archons. And on top of that, I also don't think I have a Robotics Facility yet. Which a Robotics Facility is really nice to have against Baneling compositions specifically, because Baneling compositions are extremely weak against War Prisms most of the time. And War Prisms are just fantastic to have in general as well. Like, it's not just, you know, it's not like they're just great against Baneling, but I really like them against Baneling. So it makes it so easy to get Zealous across the map, which is fantastic. So I see a bunch of Ravagers here as well, but my Templar count is quite low. Now here, I think this is just a kind of a stupid move out with my entire army. I think I should just do that with my Stalkers. Just have my Stalkers on a separate hotkey here. And I just kind of move them forward and try to trade the entire time. And I just don't do that quite enough. I think this is actually a pretty significant error here that I make. And just an error that I kind of make in general. It's really important to have these Stalkers separated from... If you have this many Stalkers, their real value is from being in front of the army and trading ahead of a fight. So here I lose a lot of crap. I have some bad storms. I wasn't really ready for this fight at all. I still have 171 supply. As my Zealot run-by is now being activated. Tempests are falling as well. And he's going to get a kill here on my fort base, which is frustrating. but I still have a lot of supply left over. Sadly, no storms and also no prism. So pushing across the map, although it is possible, it's also quite scary here. So I find this 5th base. I'm like, oh, 5 bases. That's quite a lot, Lambo. That is quite a lot. Start fighting it. Because I do want to get a little bit of a trade there. I need to get something out of losing my own fort. Like, I can't just stand there and be like, oh, that was nice, I lost a fort. Like, no, I actually have to do something back now. So I'm just going to get a pylon over here, get this little gold base, and here I move back home. I'm not sure if that's the correct play. Often I think taking out a base and moving back home against Zerg is the correct play, especially if they were on very good eco, and I didn't have any splash remaining. And now you see I'm being pushed back. I'm actually losing a little bit too much already as I'm trying to target down individual banes. I lose another base to, well, what is that? To the Corruptor P over there, which is fairly frustrating. Then I move back with some of my Archons. And here, once again, I think I'm just too kind of A-movie with my army, and I should just be using my Stalkers individually from the rest of my army quite a bit more. I think that's I hadn't really quite noticed that mistake until I'm looking back at it now. Often when you're watching back your games in first person, you catch more mistakes than when you're watching the replay. And I don't know why that is, but it's something that I've often noticed in the past as well. It's where like it feels like you're more in the experience. It's much easier. I don't think I do that enough yet, where I record my own gameplay and then just watch it back. And it's an interesting thought. This is a very odd attack in my mind. It feels like this shouldn't really work, because I have plenty of Templar available. But so far it's doing an okay job, at least at killing my 5th base. I blink forward with all of my Stalkers, which is kind of a wild blink once again. And here my Archons are trying to move in forward as well. So despite all these fights not necessarily being great for my base count or for my economy, the one thing that is quite good for me right now is that I have a huge freaking army. So as long as there is no army transition coming out of my opponent, like going into Lurkers, I feel very comfortable in this spot. Because I don't have Immortals, and Lurkers thus would be very powerful to have versus me. But what I do have here are a bunch of Templar, a couple of Archons, and that is usually enough to deal with any type of just with any type of Baneling army. So here my opponent is trying to fight into me, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna move forward with a bunch of my Stalkers, make sure that I can't get flanked either. I see him move out with the flank. Okay, here he comes, and he walks in with just the links initially. As more Banes coming in. This is a weird fight. A lot of these fights, I don't entirely understand what's happening in here, but this didn't feel so good for me. I have a lot of Stalkers remaining. His Roaches are actually very poorly upgraded. I think they only have +1 while I have +3. So I thought that my fight was gonna end up being a little bit better there, but it ended up being quite crap, honestly. As my Zealot run by hits one of these bases. There's 2 random Archons that are now moving across the map. I thought I could probably move them towards this general fight, but I can't because there's a little bit of a rock there, which is frustrating. Now this base is gonna get taken out here, and I should probably have blinked forward into killing 1 or 2 more Ravagers there. My forward base is now up. I'm 128 supply, so at this point my supply isn't looking as good anymore, but my army also isn't awful. My opponent has bad upgrades. Really, the only thing I'm afraid of is like a transition into Lurkers. That could have been real freaking bad. And I'm trying to retake this gold once more. I really like this gold position in general because it's on top of a ramp, and it's one of the easier bases to hold. If you go to the very far left to like the 9 o'clock, and you have the far right side base, it makes it difficult to deal with all types of Baneling run-bys, in my mind at least. And you tend to be in a much more defensive position. Here you kind of have a forward spot, which is easy to launch attacks from. And having that high ground at a base is a huge, huge advantage. And especially if your opponent also has the gold, I think you kind of really want your own gold as well. It's nice to have. So I'm starting a Prism right now, or it's out on the map already. Here comes another flank from my opponent. As there's really not that many Banelings in this army. I'm cancelling all my buildings. Ideally, you'd have some type of Zealot run by, being launched right now. Whenever you're being attacked, you want to have some Zealots across the map. That's just a good rule to have. Like whenever you're under attack, your opponent should be under attack. Now, Super Battery gets activated, I feel like for the first time with some use. And here I send my Zealots. I'm not quite sure what to do with these Zealots. Just gonna end up dying. It's better to fight than to run and die the entire time. But yeah, just gonna send a couple of these probes over there. Get the gold once again up and mining. 168 supply to 200. I wonder if it would be wise to try and rebuild some type of air force, or even just to get a mothership out. Like a mothership with the time warp is already very powerful, and the ability to make your units invisible is also quite powerful, of course. So there are some arguments to be made there for something like that. As I start moving in with my Prism over here, you see him moving out as well. Just gonna drop into his natural. See if I can do something in the main, but there's so many units here. I'm like, oh, that's fairly useless. Just send my Prism away for now. These are good storms. I actually get quite some damage. I also lose an Archon for free there because I wasn't quite paying attention. Here I push forward very far. So I want control of the Watchtower. Control of the Watchtower is fairly vital in, well, most matchups, because this Watchtower covers pretty much everything. So having control of that would be absolutely phenomenal. So we're just kind of fighting over it back and forth here. And I'm pretending to want to storm that. My army here is pretty okay. It's not huge, but it's okay. And here comes a big flank from my opponent. Didn't entirely see that one coming, as I lose all my Templar. And when you lose all your Templar as a Protoss, usually that means life is not so great, as I'm about to realize right now. There's still a lot of Roaches with it. If there are still Banelings alive and you don't have Storms remaining, that usually is very bad, because then you can't really fight the Roaches. As you can see, I was pretty upset at this moment, because it felt like after the early game, I'm not saying I should have won, but I think I was in a good position, and I was the one in control for quite a while. Although my eco was worse, it felt like I just made a lot of executional errors here. And at this point, I mean, I'm pretty dead. I have no supply left. He is like 6-7 bases still mining, and yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. The moment you lose that gold base now, I don't have anything left. So yeah, that sucked. 0-1 against Lambo. And the second game is played on Oceanborn, and as you can see, I blocked my opponent's natural hatchery, and I'm croning out in the depth, as well as building a quick Stargate over here. Now, on this map, I decided to go for a triple Oracle play, a little bit like how Hero and Maxpax like to play. So really the golden standard of Protoss versus Zerg right now. I've played it quite a bit. I feel pretty comfortable with it. There's one thing that I'm not super comfortable with, and that's the fact that it feels like you need to deal damage with the Oracle. So if you're building 1 or 2 Oracles, you can kind of get away with using them as control units, scouting. You can clear some creep maybe. You kill like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 workers, and you're kind of okay with it, okay? However, if you're building 3 Oracles, that is significant investment into the Stargate, and it seriously delays any type of follow-up push that you can do, whether that's with Blink Stalkers or with Glaive Adepts, or if it's a charge timing, it doesn't matter. It delays your Twilight Council by a solid 15 seconds or so. That is very significant in this matchup. And thus, if you're investing in that 3rd Oracle, you better be damn sure you're going to be capable of dealing some damage. So that is something you always need to keep in mind, as I sent my probe out a little bit too early for no apparent reason. Croning out another little Oracle over here. As, like I said, triple Oracle is going to be the name of the game here. See a bunch of these bad boys come around. I think I cancelled my 3rd Adept. It was a fake, so that he wouldn't scout with his Overlord. Just pretended to build a unit. And as a result, I had to keep my Oracle at home a little longer than I really would have wanted. But, you know, sometimes that's just the way of the world. You need to keep your Oracle at home a little bit. Does mean that I lose my timing. Usually you can fly in with your first Oracle and try and kill 1 or 2 drones. That's not going to be the case over here, as these Oracles are now moving across the map. I'm just going to add some of these gases in as well, as my 3rd Oracle has started too. And I'm just looking for damage here. I'm just looking for damage. I want to at least do something. So I split up both of my Oracles. 1 in control group 2, 1 in control group 3. And I kind of start juggling in between these 2 sides. I get 1 drone kill here as he's moving them back. And here I don't get a shot off, and I don't really get a kill. So if 1 kill in 4 minutes and 30 seconds, it's not the end of the world. Usually once the 3rd Oracle arrives, you can really get a whole lot more done. Get a couple of Adepts out as well to create even a little bit more chaos, because that's really, well, the most important thing is that you create chaos, and in the chaos your Oracles come in and they shoot some stuff down, right? That's pretty much the entirety of the plan. So I got these two little Adepts out right now. 1 Adept stays at home to kind of cover my mineral line in case a 6-7 link show up. You don't want to lose all of your workers instantly. A couple of these Stalkers as well being added in. Cancel this Shade, as I'm just looking for really anything. My opponent's built a lot of freaking links. I was kind of surprised by that, to be honest. As user Revelation rather than going in. I think I could have probably gotten 1 or 2 kills there and taken a little bit more hull damage on my Oracles, but I already was fairly damaged and I didn't quite want to risk it. So I decided to pull it back. Double Stalkers now shooting down this Overlord. Always nice to deny a little bit of scouting from your opponent. And I see that he's opting for a Baneling Nest rather than a Roach Warren. So I think this is it's actually the worst case scenario. You ideally want to be playing against Roaches when you're playing Stalkers, because Roaches, they suck against Stalkers, especially if they don't have speed. And Lings, well, in large numbers are quite good. You lose a couple of Lings over here. That's also nice for me as I'm taking my extra gases and start moving across the map. I have a lot of energy left over on my Oracles. You could say, wow, that's great. You can now use Stasis Wards, but it's really not that great because it means that I haven't killed anything. I haven't been activating them enough, and it freaking sucks. Also, the position that I'm engaging from is kind of awkward here in my mind. I haven't even confirmed the fort base yet or where it is. So I'm kind of standing in no man's land here. It's like, well, what am I trying to achieve? My reinforcements are being rallied right into my opponent's Lings if I'm not careful, and even if I am careful, that's just the reality of the situation right now. Banelings hit my units, or my probes. I lose like 10-12 probes here. I think it's like, yeah, 10 probes I lose here. And I mean, I can't really surround Lings. That's not how it works actually. By moving in there, I kind of get surrounded myself. So far the first 7 minutes, well, I think the words absolute disaster describe somewhat accurately how I feel about those first 7 minutes. It's just been absolutely terrible so far, like complete garbage in my mind. Not good, not solid, just it's a sad situation. And the one thing that does make me happy is that I don't see too many workers here on the fort base yet. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I decide to delay my fort a little bit, get the extra gateways first as a result. I'm like, okay, I want these extra gates. There's nothing really here. Or maybe I already had decided that, I can't quite recall. Okay, these gateways definitely being added in because of seeing no workers on that fort. Adding in these Templar. Storm is good against +1 melee, generally. So I add in a battery. So I have so many freaking Lings though. And I'm not sure what he's doing. At this point I'm starting to think, what if he techs into fast ultras? I'm pretty dead. I have a crap ton of Stalkers and they're completely useless. Like, ultra rushes aren't very common because they're absolutely terrible. But also in this type of scenario where you have bad eco and you have no immortals, you're not playing Charge Archon, but you're playing Blink Stalker, Ultra plus a couple of Infestors is perhaps not even that bad. However, that is not entirely what he's doing, and it's also not really what I'm expecting. I just remember at this moment I had that thought. I'm like, man, what if it's Ultras? Like, he's only shown Lings at this point, you know, nothing else but pure Ling. So I have no clue what's kicking off. And okay, now I see the Hydras. I'm like, that ain't good. Well, I mean, literally anything that I would have seen at this point probably ain't good, because I just don't have a very large army compared to my opponent. I don't have I don't have anything really of value here, as I do catch a couple of Hydras and Stasis Wards. Well, the only thing of value that I truly do have here are Stasis Wards, and boy am I using those. Boy am I using those. Another, what is that, 7 Hydras? I feel like maybe I should try and catch these Hydras here rather than just standing around. And I went for the Lings here. I didn't want him to to force any more Lings into Stasis Wards on the left side, and as a result I let these Hydras go. I also lost my Zealot run by. It happened on the minimap, so you guys maybe couldn't quite see it. But without a Zealot run by on the map, it's freaking hard to get anything done. And every single time I try to send out a run by, it literally gets caught instantly by Banelings. It's like, I'm not sure how much of that was pure skill or just a little bit of luck of the movement, you know, but it's like, man, I literally can't get anything by. I don't have a Prism out on the map either. And I think this game is pure destruction. Like, I just get completely owned here. Not having a Prism out on the map, the early game being completely useless. Now finally I'm trying to get a Zealot run by towards the far left. But I'm already losing my fort base. And he can still come at me from like 3-4 angles here. So yeah, this is just overall just a terrible, terrible position. He runs in. I get okay storms, but his army is just so much bigger than mine, and I think at this point he probably has +2 as well. The Hydras are there, and I mean, I got completely owned. I think you can't even pretend like this was a close game, because it really wasn't from start to finish. Like, this is the type of game you upload as like a tutorial or a guide on YouTube, rather than playing against the AI easy. You pretend that there's an opponent, but in reality there really wasn't, because I didn't really achieve anything. So I lose my second match here, and that means that I'm now 1-1, and I will be playing someone that is also 1-1. I don't know who that is yet. It most likely is going to happen on Tuesday or Wednesday. You can watch it live then. The schedule will be on Liquipedia most likely. And otherwise I will be uploading all of my games from this tournament on YouTube the day after I've played them, or maybe 2 days if it interferes too much with the general schedule of my YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it despite the loss. Of course, we can't only show the good, we also got to show the bad, or the good would be meaningless. Thanks, and bye-bye.